Mr. President, this is the 289th time that I have come to the Senate floor with my increasingly battered time-to-wake-up chart to stir this chamber to act on climate change. Since 2016, I have been talking about the Zettajoules. The Zettajoules is the measure of how much fossil fuel emissions are heating up our oceans. In this season of extreme, record-smashing heat touching all 50 states, it is wild that elected representatives in Washington still choose to insulate themselves from reality, a reality measured in zettajoules. A zettajoule is a number almost beyond comprehension in its size. 1 joule, Joule, is our standard unit of energy, and it applies to heat energy. A zettajoule is 1 joule with 21 zeros behind it. It is a truly massive number. In a 2019 Time to Wake Up speech, I reported that more than 9 zettajoules of heat energy was being added to the ocean annually. Since then, I've come to the floor with an updated number. Our oceans are absorbing around 14 zettajoules of excess heat every year. Let's put that in context. The total energy consumption of all humankind amounts to about 1/2 of a zettajoule of energy per year. That means that for the fossil fuel component of that 1/2 of a zettajoule of energy, we pay the price of 14 added zettajoules of heat into the ocean every year. Said another way, we load into our Earth's oceans every year nearly 30 times the entire energy use of the entire species on the entire planet. That is a big magnification. If this is the zettajoules of excess heat absorbed into the oceans every year, that dot is the average annual energy consumption of the human species on the planet. For the price of the fossil fuel component of that, mankind's entire energy consumption in zettajoules, we suffer that load of heat energy going into the oceans. That's a bit hard to comprehend, so consider one other unit of measure: the energy released by the detonation of the nuclear bomb America dropped on Hiroshima. In Hiroshima bomb terms, last year, the ocean absorbed the equivalent of 7 Hiroshima bombs detonating every second in the ocean. Every second of every day for the entire year, 7 nuclear detonations worth of heat into our oceans per second. This unfathomable amount of heat has been somewhat offset by La Niña, the cool phase of a recurring climate pattern called the El Niño Southern Oscillation, or ENSO. That's the acronym for the El Niño Southern Oscillation. The ENSO cycle consists of variations in sea surface temperature, rainfall, surface air pressure, and atmospheric circulation. It's located over the Pacific Ocean near the equator, and in that oscillation, La Niña is the name for the cooling period. Well, in June we left La Niña and moved into an El Niño period. El Niño is the warmer side of the ENSO cycle. We saw it raise temperatures in previous cycles in 1998 and 2016. All those zettajoules of excess heat being dumped into the Earth's oceans, and now we're headed into the warming part of the cycle. Watch for more heat records to fall. One major consequence for us of hotter oceans is stronger hurricane activity. Hurricanes are powered up more by hotter water as they move over the Atlantic. This June, sea surface temperatures in the North Atlantic Ocean are the hottest in 170 years. The hottest in 170 years. 9 whole degrees Fahrenheit above normal. This is what is considered by science an extreme oceanic heat wave. And certain parts of the ocean are reaching the rare designation called beyond extreme. That's actually happening. On a scale from 1 to 5, the North Atlantic's heat is either Category 4 or Category 5, depending on where you are. Bring it home to Florida. Water temperatures in Florida have hit records reaching as high as 101 degrees. That's not the air temperature, that's the ocean temperature. That's actually the recommended temperature for a hot tub. Indeed, that's the midpoint of the jacuzzi company's recommended range for its hot tub temperatures for healthy adults. Now, doctors recommend that children under the age of 5 avoid hot tubs over 95 degrees, and pregnant women are advised to stay out of water once it gets much above 100 degrees. So the ocean off Florida is almost too hot for many humans. Almost too hot for humans means definitely too hot for many ocean creatures, particularly ocean corals. Coral reefs matter because they support a quarter of all known marine species. Florida has the largest coral reef ecosystem in the continental United States, the 3rd largest living barrier coral reef in the world. If you don't care about creatures and only care about money, well, Florida's protected waters contribute billions of tourism dollars to the Florida economy. All of that is in jeopardy in this heat. According to NOAA, when temperatures reach 1 degree Celsius, or about 2 degrees Fahrenheit warmer than normal, corals cross what is called their bleaching threshold. That is where they turn white as they evulse the living creatures that keep them alive, and that is a step on the way to death. That is bad news, considering that temperatures around Florida have been running 5 degrees above normal. And the longer this goes on, the more trouble corals will have recovering. We hear sometimes about 100-year or even 500-year storms. These are storms that are so extreme they're expected to occur only once every 100 or 500 years. Well, scientists have put this Florida heat wave off the charts. Ben Kirtman is the director of the Cooperative Institute for Marine and Atmospheric Studies at the University of Miami. He says, if you just wrote a statistical model and said, what are the chances of this level of warming? It would be 1 in 250,000 years. Not 1 in 100 years, not 1 in 500 years, 1 in 250,000 years. If that's not a warning that it's time to wake up, I do not know what is. Ultra-rare weather events are not so rare anymore in this climate-changed world. This is not just happening in the United States, it is worldwide. This summer, most of the oceans on planet Earth have at least a 70% chance of experiencing what are called marine heat wave conditions. The effects of marine heat waves read like biblical plagues: decreased oxygen, dead zones, fish die-offs. And then come the weather effects: droughts in some places, and increasingly deadly and dangerous storms in others, because our oceans drive our weather on this planet. Over the course of a weekend last month, thousands of dead fish washed up along the Texas Gulf Coast. They died of lack of oxygen. Warm water holds much less oxygen than cold water. The ocean, through heat, becomes anoxic, and this slaughter results. Again, if you don't care about creatures and only care about money, in the United States, last year alone, there were 18 separate billion-dollar weather and climate disasters, exceeding $175 billion in total cost, and by the way, costing nearly 500 Americans their lives. Aside from those sudden disasters comes the slow and insidious changes ocean warming brings, like the accelerating creep of sea level rise across your coast and mine, Mr. President. As ocean temperatures increase, two things happen. One, ice in the Arctic and Antarctic melts, adding water to the ocean. And two, seawater expands. Remember those zettajoules. Combined, the effects of melting ice sheets and expanding seawater volume increases sea levels along our coasts. And that slow creep of sea level rise is not as slow as it used to be. The ocean rose more than twice as fast this decade as it did the previous decade, and last year set a new record high.